I didn't plan to stop. That's the part that still bothers me the most. How ordinary the decision felt. 1 second I was driving through an endless stretch of highway, half asleep, and following the dim glow of taillights ahead of me. And the next, I was pulling into a place that shouldn't have been there. The sign flickered before I even saw the building. A buzzing neon hum cut through the silence of the road. The kind that makes your teeth ache if you listen too long. It read, "Open 24 hours," though half the letters blinked in and out, like they couldn't decide if they wanted to exist. The diner itself sat alone, surrounded by nothing but darkness. No nearby towns. No exits marked on my GPS. Just asphalt, dead air, and that sickly yellow light spilling from the windows. I should have kept driving, but I was tired and hungry, and the road ahead felt wrong somehow, like it stretched too far without changing. So I parked. The gravel crunched under my tires, loud in a way that made the silence around it feel unnatural. I sat in the car for a moment, staring at the diner. There were cars in the lot, 5 of them, but none looked like they'd been driven recently. Dust clung to their windshields. One had a flat tire that had clearly been ignored for days, maybe longer. Still, the lights were on, and inside, I could see people. That was enough to convince me. The bell above the door rang when I stepped inside, a sharp metallic chime that echoed too long, like the room was bigger than it looked. The first thing I noticed was a smell. Burnt coffee, grease, something sweet but spoiled, like syrup left out too long. The second thing I noticed was the silence. Not complete silence. There was a hum of a refrigerator somewhere, the faint crackle of a grill, but no conversation, no clinking dishes, no movement beyond what was necessary. There were 6 people inside. A man in a trucker jacket sat at the counter, staring into a cup of coffee like it might speak to him. A woman in a booth near the window tapped her fingers against the table in a slow, repetitive rhythm. In the far corner, a couple sat across from each other, unmoving, their plates untouched. And behind the counter, the waitress. She smiled when she saw me, but didn't reach her eyes. "Sit anywhere," she said. Her voice sounded normal. Too normal, like it had been practiced. I slid into a booth near the middle of the diner, trying not to stare at the others, but it was hard not to. None of them looked at me. Not once. The waitress brought me a menu almost immediately. It was laminated, sticky around the edges, and oddly sparse. Every item had no description, just names. Burger, pie, coffee, special. No prices, no details. And at the very bottom, printed in smaller text, was something that made my stomach tighten. "Please follow the rules for your safety." I frowned. "What rules?" I asked when the waitress returned. She set a glass of water in front of me. "You'll see," she said. That was it. No explanation. No smile this time. Just those 2 words. I should have left then. Instead, I ordered coffee. It came out almost instantly. Too fast. The cup was already full when she set it down, steam rising in thin, twisting strands. I reached for it and paused. There was something written on the inside of the rim. I tilted the cup slightly to read it. "Do not look outside after your first sip." I blinked. "What is this?" I asked, half laughing. The waitress didn't respond. She had already walked away. I looked around, expecting anyone to react. No one did. The man at the counter kept staring into his drink. The woman by the window kept tapping. The couple in the corner didn't move at all. It felt like I had stepped into something already in progress. Something I didn't understand. I stared at the coffee again. The warning seemed ridiculous. A joke, maybe? Some kind of gimmick? Still, something about it made my fingers hesitate. Then I laughed quietly to myself and took a sip. The coffee was bitter, stronger than anything I'd had before. It burned slightly as it went down, leaving a strange aftertaste, metallic almost, and without thinking, I glanced at the window. At first, I didn't notice anything strange, just darkness. The parking lot, dimly lit by a single flickering lamp. The cars, still, silent. Then something moved. I froze. It was near the edge of the light, just beyond the reach of the lamp. A shape, tall, Too tall. It didn't step forward. It just leaned, like it was trying to look inside. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked, and it was gone. Just darkness again. I sat back slowly, my heart pounding harder than it should have been. First time, a voice said. I turned sharply. The man at the counter was looking at me now. Really looking. His eyes were bloodshot, sunken deep into his face. What? I asked. He nodded toward my cup. You looked outside, he said. It wasn't a question. I swallowed. Yeah, so? He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sighed. You shouldn't have done that. A chill ran down my spine. Why not? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up his coffee and took a slow sip. Then he leaned closer, his voice dropping just enough that I had to focus to hear him. Because now it knows you're here. My stomach twisted. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I glanced back at the window. The darkness seemed thicker now. Closer. What is this place? I asked. He didn't respond right away. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out something folded. Something worn. A piece of paper. He slid it across the counter toward me. Read it, he said. I hesitated, then stood and walked over. Picking it up, it was a list. Handwritten, messy, but clear enough to read. At the top, in bold letters. Diner rules. Do not ignore. My chest tightened as I read the first few lines. 1. Do not look outside after consuming any food or drink. 2. Do not respond if someone calls your name from outside. 3. If the waitress offers you the special, refuse politely. 4. Never leave between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. 5. If a new customer enters and no bell rings, do not acknowledge them. 6. If the lights flicker 3 times, hide under your table immediately. 7. Do not fall asleep, no matter what you hear. My hands trembled slightly as I lowered the paper. This is insane, I said. The man didn't smile. You're still here, aren't you? He replied. I looked around again. At the silent customers. At the unmoving couple. At the waitress, watching from behind the counter. And for the first time, I realized something I hadn't noticed before. The clock above the door. It read 12:47 a.m. I checked my phone. No signal. But the time, 12:47 a.m. Exactly the same. It hadn't changed since I walked in. A slow, creeping dread settled over me. How long have you been here? I asked. The man didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, he looked at the clock. Then back at me. Long enough, he said. The lights flickered once. Then again. I felt my pulse spike. The third flicker hit, and everything went dark for half a second. When the lights came back on, the woman by the window had stopped tapping, and every single person in the diner was now looking at me. No one spoke. Not the man at the counter. Not the waitress. Not the couple who hadn't touched their food. Just silence. But it wasn't empty silence anymore. It felt aware. Every set of eyes locked onto me, unblinking, as if I had done something irreversible. Like I'd crossed a line I didn't even know existed. My throat went dry. Okay, what the hell is going on? I said, my voice cracking slightly. The man at the counter didn't answer right away. He just kept staring, his expression tightening with something that looked a lot like fear. Not for himself. For me. Then, slowly, he lifted a finger and pointed upward. The lights. They flickered once. A pause. Twice. My chest tightened. Wait. The third flicker hit. Everything went black. For half a second, the world disappeared. And then, the man grabbed my arm and yanked me down. Under the table, he hissed. I didn't argue. Instinct took over. I dropped hard, my knees slamming against the tile floor as I crawled beneath the booth. My heart was hammering, so loud I was sure whatever was out there could hear it. The air changed. That was the first thing I noticed. It got colder, not gradually, instantly, like someone had opened a door to winter inside the diner. Then came the sound, a slow, dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. I pressed myself flat against the ground, barely breathing. Don't look, the man whispered from somewhere nearby. No matter what you hear, don't look. The dragging sound grew louder. Closer. Closer. It moved with a rhythm that didn't match footsteps. It was uneven. Wet. Like whatever was moving didn't quite understand how movement worked. Something bumped against the leg of my booth. I bit down hard on my tongue to stop myself from reacting. Then, a voice. Soft. Familiar. Hey, you dropped something. My blood ran cold. It was my voice. Exactly my voice. Right outside the booth. Come on. It said again, gentle, coaxing. Just take a look. I squeezed my eyes shut, even though I was already facing the floor. No, I whispered to myself. No, no, no. The voice chuckled, but it wasn't quite right anymore. It stretched at the edges, distorting into something deeper, hungrier. You already looked outside, it said. Why stop now? The dragging sound circled the booth slowly. I could hear it scraping along the tiles, leaving something behind. Something thick. Look at me. The voice dropped lower. Closer, right beside my ear. Look at me. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. The smell hit next. Rotten, sweet, and decayed at the same time, like something had been dead for too long, but refused to stay that way. I felt something brush against my shoe. I almost screamed, but I didn't move. I couldn't. Seconds stretched into minutes. Or maybe it just felt that way. Then the lights flickered again. Once, twice, 3 times. And the sound stopped. Just like that. Gone. The cold lifted. The smell faded. And the diner came back. Stay down, the man whispered. We waited. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute. Then finally, okay, he said. It's gone. I slowly crawled out from under the table, my entire body shaking. The diner looked normal again. Too normal. The customers were back in their original positions. The woman by the window had resumed tapping her fingers like nothing had happened. The couple in the corner sat motionless again. And the waitress? She was wiping the counter, like nothing had happened. What was that? I asked, my voice barely holding together. The man didn't sit down this time. He stayed standing, scanning the room like he didn't trust it. You broke the first rule, he said. That thing outside, it watches. It waits. And when you acknowledge it, he trailed off. It comes inside. A chill ran down my spine. That wasn't inside before? No, he said flatly. Now it is. I looked toward the door. The bell above it hung still, silent. Then something clicked in my mind. Rule 5, I said slowly. If a new customer enters and no bell rings, the man nodded. Do not acknowledge them. My stomach dropped. How many? I swallowed. How many are in here right now? He didn't answer, which was worse than anything he could have said. I turned slowly, scanning the diner, counting. 1. The man. 2. The waitress. 3. The woman by the window. 4 and 5. The couple. That's 5. Plus me. 6. But earlier, there had been 6 before me. I felt my pulse spike again. That's not right, I whispered. The man stepped closer. Don't count, he said sharply. That's another mistake people make. But don't count. Something in his tone made me stop. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said, trying to steady my breathing. So we just follow the rules? That's the idea. And then what? He hesitated, then gave a hollow laugh. Then maybe you get to leave. Maybe. I didn't like that word. Not at all. The waitress suddenly appeared beside us. I hadn't seen her approach. You look shaken, she said, her smile back in place. Too wide, too still. Would you like to try our special? The man's expression changed instantly. Tense. Alert. No, he said quickly. The waitress ignored him. Her eyes were locked on me. Waiting. I remembered the list. Rule 3. If the waitress offers you the special, refuse politely. My mouth felt dry. No, thank you, I said carefully. Her smile didn't fade, but something behind her eyes did. Are you sure? She asked. The lights flickered once. The man grabbed my arm again, harder this time. Politely, he whispered. I forced a small, shaky smile. No, thank you, I repeated. I'm not hungry. The waitress stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Very well, she said, and walked away. I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. That was close, the man muttered. What happens if you say yes? I asked. He didn't look at me. You don't want to know. I glanced down at the menu again. The word special seemed darker now, thicker, like the ink had been pressed harder into the page, or like it was still spreading. I quickly flipped the menu over. I need to get out of here, I said. You can't. Why not? He pointed at the clock. Still 12:47 a.m. Rule 4, he said. Never leave between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. It's not even 1 o'clock yet. Do you really think that matters? I froze. You said yourself, the time hasn't changed, he continued. You don't know how long you've been here. A cold realization crept in. If the clock hits 1:00, he shook his head. It won't. Silence settled between us again. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Listen carefully, he said. The rules don't always make sense, but they always matter. You break them, you give this place more control over you. And if I follow them? He hesitated, then finally said, You last longer. That wasn't comforting, not even a little. A sudden sound cut through the air, the bell above the door. It rang, sharp, clear. Every head in the diner turned toward the entrance, slowly, in perfect unison. I followed their gaze. The door stood open, but no one was there. No footsteps, no movement, just darkness beyond the threshold, and the faintest outline of something, standing just outside. The man beside me went completely still. Don't, he whispered, but I couldn't look away, because this time the bell had rung, which meant something had just entered, and whatever it was allowed to be here. The bell was still swinging, back and forth, but there was no one in the doorway, at least not in the way there should have been. The darkness outside didn't look normal anymore. It wasn't just night, it felt thick, almost solid, like something you could step into and never come back from. And inside that darkness, something shifted, not stepping forward, not entering, just being there. My breath caught in my throat. Don't stare, the man beside me whispered sharply. Too late, because whatever was out there, it noticed me. The air inside the diner changed again. Not cold this time. Heavy, like pressure building before a storm. Then slowly and possibly, something stepped inside. But it didn't come through the door. It peeled itself away from the darkness, like it had been part of it. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. It looked like a person, but wrong. Too tall. Its arms hung too low. Fingers nearly brushing the floor. Its head tilted slightly to one side, like it didn't quite understand how to hold it upright. And its face, there wasn't one, just a smooth, pale surface, like skin stretched too tightly over something that shouldn't exist. No eyes, no mouth, but I knew it was looking at us. At me. No one else in the diner reacted. Not really. They were watching, but not surprised, not scared, like they'd seen this before, like this was just part of the routine. What is that? I whispered. The man didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the thing. That, he said quietly, is the kind that follows the rules. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means, he said, we're still alive. The thing moved deeper into the diner. Each step was slow, deliberate, like it was learning how to walk with every movement. It passed by the booths, the counter, the other customers, and no one acknowledged it, not even the waitress, especially not the waitress. She continued wiping the same spot on the counter, over and over again, her smile unchanged, like she couldn't see it, or refused to. The creature stopped in the center of the diner. Then its head turned, slowly, directly toward me. I froze. Don't react. The man whispered under his breath. If it thinks you recognize it. Too late again, because something in me flinched, just slightly, but enough. The creature tilted its head further, curious. Then it took a step toward me. The man cursed under his breath. Okay, just stay calm, he muttered. Don't speak unless it speaks first. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. The creature reached my booth, stopped, towered over me. Up close, it was worse. Its skin wasn't smooth. It moved, subtly, like something underneath it was shifting, pressing outward, trying to reshape itself, trying to become something recognizable, something human. Then, a sound, wet, cracking. A line appeared where its mouth should have been. It slowly split open, too wide, far too wide, and from inside came a voice. Are you enjoying your meal? It sounded like multiple voices layered together, out of sync, broken. I couldn't breathe. The man beside me spoke quickly. Yes, he said, calm but firm. We are. The creature didn't look at him. It was focused on me, waiting. I realized what was happening. It had asked me, and I hadn't answered. Answer it, the man whispered urgently. Politely, my throat felt like it was closing. Yes, I managed. It's good. The creature's mouth twitched, like it was trying to smile. Then it leaned closer, too close. I could smell that same rot from before, but stronger now. Personal. Would you like something more? It asked. My mind raced. This wasn't the waitress, but it was still offering something. And the rules. Did they apply, or didn't they? The man's grip tightened on my arm. Say no, he whispered. Now. I'm okay, I said quickly. Thank you. The creature didn't move. For a moment, I thought I'd made the wrong choice. Then slowly, its mouth closed, sealing shut again like nothing had ever been there, and it stepped back, turning away. I exhaled shakily. What happens if I said yes? I whispered. The man didn't look at me. You wouldn't be you anymore. That answer stayed with me. The creature moved toward the counter, toward the waitress. For the first time, she stopped moving. Her hand froze mid-wipe. Slowly, she looked up, and her smile changed. It stretched wider, wider than it should have been possible, mirroring the creature. Welcome, she said. Her voice no longer sounded human, not even close. The creature tilted its head again, and for a moment, they just stared at each other, like two things recognizing their own kind. Then, the lights flickered. Once, twice, the man grabbed my arm again. Get ready, he said. Why? I asked. Because this time, he said, his voice tight with something close to panic. I don't think hiding is going to save us. The second flicker hit, and didn't stop. The lights trembled overhead, stuttering rapidly now, plunging the diner into a chaotic rhythm of light and shadow. Every face in the room appeared and disappeared in fragments. Eyes, hands, smiles, never whole for more than a second. And the third flicker never came. It just stayed between, like something had interrupted the pattern. The man's grip on my arm tightened painfully. That's not supposed to happen, he said. His voice had changed. Before, he sounded tired, defeated. Now he sounded afraid. What do we do? I asked, panic rising in my chest. He didn't answer, because across the room, the creature and the waitress were still facing each other. But something was wrong. They weren't still anymore. They were shifting, not moving like people, more like reflections in broken glass. Jerking, glitching, their forms bending in ways that didn't make sense. The waitress's smile stretched wider and wider, her face pulling the edges like it was being peeled apart from the inside. And the creature, it was changing. Its smooth, blank face began to ripple, bulging outward in places, collapsing inward in others, like it was trying to form features, but couldn't decide which ones to keep. Then it turned, not just its head, all of it, at once, straight toward us. The air snapped cold again. Something's wrong. I whispered. Yeah, the man said. The rules are breaking. A sharp crack echoed through the diner. One of the overhead lights burst, glass raining down onto the floor in tiny, glittering shards. No one reacted. Not the woman tapping at the window. Not the couple in the corner. Not even the waitress. whose body now stood unnaturally still, her head tilted at an impossible angle. Another crack, another light gone. Darkness crept across the ceiling, swallowing the room piece by piece. "We need to move," the man said suddenly. "Move where?" "I don't know," he snapped, "but staying here." A sound cut him off. The bell. It rang again. Once, then again, and again, rapid, violent, as if the door was opening and closing over and over, but no one was touching it. I turned toward the entrance. The door slammed shut, then open, then shut again, each movement faster than the last. And with every swing, more darkness poured in, not just outside anymore, inside, crawling along the floor like liquid shadow. "No, no, no, no," the man muttered. "What is that?" I asked, my voice barely holding together. "That's what happens when too many rules get broken," he said. "Things start coming through that aren't supposed to." The shadow reached the first booth, climbed up the side like it was alive. And then it stood up, not fully, not human, but something close enough to make my stomach turn. Another one followed, and another, each one rising from the darkness, spilling through the door. "How many are there?" I asked. "I told you not to count," the man snapped. One of the shadow things turned toward us, and this one had a face, or something like one. It looked like a person I almost recognized, but stretched, wrong, like a memory being pulled apart. My breath caught. "I think I know that one," I whispered. The man didn't even look. "That's the point," he said. "They don't come as strangers." The creature in the center of the diner suddenly let out a sound. Not a scream, not a roar, something in between. And all the shadow things stopped moving. Every single one of them. Then slowly, they turned toward it, like it had called them. The waitress moved next. Her body jerked forward, then snapped upright again, her limbs bending in sharp, unnatural angles. Her smile had split her face too far now, stretching up toward her eyes. "They're not supposed to work together," the man whispered. "Who?" He didn't answer, because the creature and the waitress stepped toward each other at the same time. And when they met, they didn't stop. They merged, not cleanly, not smoothly. Their forms collapsed into each other like melting wax, limbs tangling, faces pressing together, their shapes folding and unfolding as if reality itself couldn't decide what they were anymore. The sound it made was unbearable, wet, cracking, endless. I clamped my hands over my ears. "What is that?" I shouted. The man shook his head, backing away. "That's something new," he said, "and new things don't follow rules." That was the worst thing he could have said, because the rules were the only thing keeping us alive. The merge thing, whatever it was now, rose slowly, taller than before, wider, its body constantly shifting, never holding one shape for more than a second. And then it looked at me, not guessed, not sensed, looked. I felt it, like pressure inside my skull. "You," it said. The voice wasn't layered anymore. It was unified, stronger, aware. "You broke the first rule." I couldn't speak. "You let us in." My legs felt weak. "I didn't." "You did." The words echoed in my head, not just in the air. Behind me, the man whispered something under his breath. "What?" I asked. "There's one rule left we haven't talked about," he said. My stomach dropped. "Why not?" "Because no one ever makes it far enough for it to matter." That didn't help. "What is it?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "If the rules stopped working." He swallowed. "Run." The thing took a step toward us. The floor beneath it cracked. Shadows spread outward from its feet. The other shapes followed, crawling, reaching, hungry. "Now would be a good time," the man said, and for the first time since I entered that diner, I didn't hesitate. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I just ran. My shoes slammed against the tile as I sprinted past the booths, past the counter, past the frozen faces of people who either couldn't move or chose not to. The door was right there, just a few steps away. Freedom. I reached for the handle and froze. The bell above it wasn't moving anymore. Completely still. Silent. A memory slammed into my head. Rule 5. If a new customer enters and no bell rings, do not acknowledge them. But now, I wasn't entering. I was leaving. Did the rules still apply? Did any of them apply anymore? Behind me, something heavy dragged across the floor. Faster this time. Closer. I grabbed the handle and yanked the door open. Cold air rushed in, but it didn't feel like outside. It felt empty, like stepping into nothing. The parking lot was gone. No cars, no gravel, no flickering street lamp. Just a long stretch of darkness, shaped like a road, but not real, like a memory of a road. I staggered back. No, this isn't right. You can't leave like that. I turned. The man was behind me, but something about him had changed. Subtly, his posture was different. Straighter, less tired, less human. What do you mean? I asked. He stepped closer. You still think there's an outside, don't you? My chest tightened. Of course there is. He didn't answer. He just looked at me. And slowly, he smiled. Not wide like the waitress. Not broken like the thing. Just enough to feel wrong. You came in from a road, he said, but you never stopped to ask where the road came from. I shook my head. That doesn't make any sense. Exactly. Behind him, the diner had gone quiet again. Too quiet. No flickering lights. No movement. Just stillness. Waiting. What are you? I asked. He ignored the question. Instead, he reached into his jacket again and pulled out the same folded paper. The rules. But this time, it looked different. Older. Stained. Like it had been rewritten too many times. You think these are here to protect you, he said. They're not. My stomach dropped. They're here to keep things stable. Stable for who? He finally looked at me. For the diner. A low sound echoed behind us. Not loud, but deep. The kind of sound you feel in your chest more than hear. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see it. The more rules you break, he continued, the more this place changes. The more it adapts. Adapts to what? He stepped even closer. To you. That's when I noticed it. His eyes. They weren't bloodshot anymore. They were empty. Like something had been erased behind them. You've been here a long time. I said slowly. He nodded. Long enough to understand. Understand what? That no one leaves. Something inside me snapped. No, I said. No, that's not true. There has to be a way out. There is. Hope surged, brief and desperate. How? He tilted his head slightly, the same way the creature had. You replaced someone. The words hit harder than anything else. What? This place needs balance, he said. Customers. Staff. Things that follow the rules and things that don't. I shook my head, backing away. No, I'm not. You already started the process, he said calmly. You broke the first rule. A cold realization began to form. You let something in. Another step back. You acknowledged it. My breathing became shallow. You survived longer than most. The diner lights flickered once. Just once. And stopped. You're learning the rules. I hit the counter behind me. Trapped. No. The sound behind us grew louder. Closer. That merge thing. It was coming. You have two choices, the man said. Stay here and become part of it. Or, he held out the paper, the rules, or take my place. I stared at him. What does that mean? It means, he said quietly, you stop being the one who doesn't understand, and you become the one who explains. My hand shook. You want me to trap someone else? I want you to survive. The distinction felt meaningless. Behind him, the shadows began to stretch again, reaching. The air grew heavy. Time was running out. I looked at the paper, at the rules, then at the door, at the knot road beyond it, then back at him. You've done this before, I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't deny it. They all have, he said. A long silence. Then I took the paper. The moment my fingers touched it, something shifted. Not in the diner. In me, the noise faded. The fear dulled. Not gone, just quieter, manageable, like it had been pushed to the side. I looked up. The man, no, not the man anymore. The previous one. Stepped back, relief flooding his face for the first time. Thank you, he said. And then he walked past me, toward the door, toward the darkness. This time, the bell rang, loud, clear, as he stepped through. And then he was gone, just like that. I stood there, alone, but not really, because I could feel it now. The diner, breathing, watching, waiting. I turned slowly. The merge thing had stopped moving. The shadows had retreated. Everything was reset. The waitress stood behind the counter again, smiling, normal. The customers sat in their places, unmoving, and the clock, 12:47 a.m. Of course. I looked down at the paper in my hands. The rules were clearer now. Cleaner, like they'd just been written. I understood them. Not completely, but enough. The bell above the door rang again. I looked up. A new person stepped inside. Tired, confused, just like I had been. They glanced around, took in the silence, the smell, the unease. Then their eyes landed on me. I forced a small smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Sit anywhere, I said. My voice sounded normal. Too normal. As they walked past me, I noticed something written on the inside of the coffee cup I was holding. I hadn't seen it before. Not until now. I tilted it slightly and read, "Do not forget, you were once trying to leave." I stared at the words, longer than I should have. Then slowly, I looked up, at the door, at the darkness beyond it. For just a second, I wondered. Then I set the cup down and didn't look again, because now I understood the most important rule of all. Some places don't trap you. They teach you how to stay.